Hello and welcome to Running Elasticsearch on Kubernetes Talk. I am Arvind and I work at Elastic as a developer advocate. I hope some of you might know or have seen me at other conferences or have spoken to me or I would have interacted in the community circles. I blog at arvind.dev and you can DM me even after the conference on my Twitter handle. So in this talk, I'll specifically talk about how do you deploy the Elastic Stack, which is also the called as ELK, on a Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a very popular container orchestration system, and then obviously Elasticsearch is a very popular general purpose search engine, log analytical engine. People use it for wide variety of real-time analytics projects, etc. We'll quickly take a look at the various things on running Elasticsearch on Kubernetes. Now, Elastic Stack, as you know, is has multiple components, and it's a free and open stack. Elasticsearch is the search engine. It's a NoSQL data store as well, and Logstash and Beats are data ingestion data shippers or data ingestion modules wherein you could ingest data through Logstash and Beats. And then you have Kibana, which is a visualizer that sits on top of Elasticsearch. Most people use ELK and like thinking that pull the data through Logstash, ingest into Elasticsearch and Kibana. But over a period of time, there are many things like Elastic Agent or other agents through which you could directly ship data to Elasticsearch using ingest pipelines and do a lot of stuff over a period of time. And there are three specific solutions that people built or people use Elasticsearch for. One is search, and another is like the observability, where collecting of logs, metrics, and traces. And the other one is like using SIEM, etc. So the stack is used by, say, be it if you are a developer developing applications on Elasticsearch for building search, etc., or if you are a practitioner building DevOps pipelines, or running your infrastructure or doing anything else, or if you are a product owner checking your whether your application has been doing well or not, or if you're a security practitioner working in the information security ecosystem. So you might be using or like Elasticsearch, or like you might be interacting with it if you are one of these users, or many people in the community use this product for different use cases. Now the key differentiator here is like it's a platform agnostic, vendor agnostic tool. That means you could run it anywhere, and obviously you could run it on Kubernetes. The talk specifically the topic of the talk today. So quite some time back, we have this Elastic Cloud on Kubernetes release, and then that is how you could take more and understand about like how do you run this entire stuff. Now I would, before diving specifically into this topic, I would also like talk about what's Kubernetes like for people who are like like pretty much starting up with Kubernetes. I know like this is a Kubernetes specific talk or specific conference. But then like I expect to bootstrap some knowledge of Kubernetes onto you all again. So basically, in a nutshell, Kubernetes contains a bunch of pods which could run multiple different type of container runtimes, and Docker is one such container runtime. And it runs on a fleet of nodes, and it can have services, it can have secrets where you could store certificates, passwords, kind of a thing. It also has a NAS volume mounted systems that you could mount, different types of storage that you could mount onto Kubernetes, and then it can manage on a large scale. It is like a distributed system again, and then there are multiple moving parts, and it helps you to orchestrate your workloads and achieve scale and through reliability. And then many other resources that exist in the Kubernetes ecosystem are like obviously deployments. You do multiple deployments of like say Nginx deployment or your application specific deployment, which has say certain number of replica sets, etc. Or if you have something called daemon sets, which is like a pod running on all nodes, which is common across the Kubernetes, and like it probably used to collect stuff like that, data from the other pods or other containers as well. So another thing is like persistent volumes, and it's like a volume that can be attached to different pods. Then the most important thing for this talk is a stateful set, and stateful set is something that helps run a distributed system like Elasticsearch run on Kubernetes, which I told like again is a distributed system. So Kubernetes so far is really great for a stateless system, and then Elasticsearch kind of data stores contains the state and exchange information between multiple nodes, and then stateful sets help you to do a lot of these use these stateful sets use this to deploy this Elasticsearch kind of systems actually. So all the resources that you deploy are like JSON objects within a well-defined schema. You have this is what is like called as a declarative way to deploy your infrastructure, and then give it an annotation, and then Kubernetes will deploy it and create that infrastructure for you. In a large scale, like this is how the high-level architecture would again look like. Like you have multiple controllers, an API server, which through which you interact with tools like kubectl, and then you have nodes which runs kubelets, and there is a state store like etcd which contains all the information about the resources, etc. Like yeah, as I said, these are the things that are available here. Like etcd is a persistent distributed key value system which watches all the things, stores the information. Then API server contains all the APIs to look at like the what sort of resources are happening. You could watch that. Again, the user with often with kubectl or like some other command line tools would interact with the API server. Then you have kubelets, which is like an agent running on a node, and helps with like manage the corresponding containers on the host. And then obviously controllers, which is the important topic that we are going to talk about in a minute, which contains which watches again the resources through the API server, and then also like kind of processes stuff with their own logic, like and interact with external systems probably. So there are some existing controllers in Kubernetes ecosystem, which is like a default controllers. Like you have schedulers, which kind of watches the pods, assigns them to a node. If you have some certain settings declared in your YAML while you are deploying, it follows all the settings and makes sure the pods are always available, etc. And then you have an application controller which helps you know correct number of parts are defined as well as like available again. Then you have endpoints controller, specific cloud provider controllers to create specific to interact with specific infrastructure, like say EBS or Google related or Azure related storage information, etc. Now in a similar fashion, Kubernetes is like the natural way to deploy, because there's a lot of things that are already there, and then people usually deploy applications and feel like, okay, we are set for scale, we can go ahead and improve this one to kind of like deploy and scale our applications or services. So therein when more and more tools have come in, and that helps you to manage the applications, manage the installations, deploy general purpose applications again. So Helm is like your package manager for kind of like Kubernetes. Helm contains Helm charts through which you can deploy a lot of these things. And then basically on top of all of this, then like an operator framework came up, which is from the I believe it's from the CoreOS, and then it's an SDK through which you would deploy an operator. Like operator is contains a bunch of controllers which helps you to manage, orchestrate general purpose application like Nginx or Redis, Elasticsearch, MongoDB, or Kafka, etc. So you could deploy something and use it like a native resource, infrastructure resource of Kubernetes, etc. So there are some confusions around this package manager and operator, etc. Like say how would they both look like in general? If you see, this is how an operating system and all the things upon the structure of operating system, etc. would look like. But here, if you see, where would the operator fit in? It fits below the Helm or the package manager of Kubernetes. Operator is running on top of the Kubernetes along with the Kubernetes other controllers as a third party controller, and you could define this controller using and install it like an installer, and then you use that as with an API, etc. Just like kubectl get your specific resource, you could use it in a similar fashion, but it is a bit lower and but it is bit aligned with the Kubernetes itself, wherein a Helm chart is like a package manager that sits away and does completely different. So there is an operator hub to go and discover all the operators. So you could go and look at operatorhub.io, wherein you also find the Elastic Cloud on Kubernetes. I'll come to the name why Elastic Cloud on Kubernetes, why not Elasticsearch on Kubernetes. But this is where the GitHub repo is, and you could go and look at the GitHub repo. Now, why the name Elastic Cloud on Kubernetes? As I said, that Elastic Stack, not just Elasticsearch, is an encapsulation of a lot of things over a period of time. There are many dev tools that have been come up, and like it can ingest a lot of things. So there are many ways that you could people mold this technology to use it in different ways. And there are general mistakes that a lot of developers would do, or problems that they face kind of doing a lot of these. So what happens is like the Elastic Cloud on Kubernetes creates a Elasticsearch service kind of a thing on Kubernetes, so that you could just install, then kind of deploy it naturally, and there is nothing specific, or like there is nothing like uh, that keeps you away from your regular on-prem workloads or etc. So that's where the name comes from. It's a suite of everything that is there, and you could simply run it. It obviously it has a custom resource definitions which can deploy the Elasticsearch, Kibana, APM, AppSearch, and multiple of these CRDs, and then a set of controllers. It can automate. It also obviously automates tasks like generating a TLS certificate, holding the secrets, and creating the Elastic user, etc., etc. So that's how the Kubernetes, like the operator for Elasticsearch works. So I don't want to like only talk and not show anything. I just want to like also show you something and give you an idea of how this all would look like. So I have a Kubernetes cluster that I'm running on GKE, and it's a simple cluster, bare bones, and I am not doing anything crazy here. I'll just use the like the deployer here. Like I'm using the Cloud Shell to kind of deploy the Elasticsearch instance. So I have set up all the commands here, so that I don't make too many mistakes. So I'm just installing the like the kubectl through kubectl. I'm just installing the cooperator, and then I'm gonna like create this particular operator. And you could also look at this operator logs. Actually, you could also take a look at like how this the logs of this operator would look like. And because we are essentially installing the controller, we're essentially installing a bunch of creating a bunch of custom resource definitions, and that would be available. I'm running a bit latest version, actually, and then that's why you see some warnings. But otherwise, if you are following 1.20, if your Kubernetes cluster is somewhere around that 1.20, or in between 1.16 and 1.20, it should be fine. Let us quickly create a Elasticsearch instance. Now that we installed the operator, we could kind of like create an Elasticsearch instance. Now I'll create it, and I'll also try to explain you with what about this particular instance. So let me just increase the font size here so that you'll be able to see it. I'll also see if I could increase the font size. Yeah. So as you could see here, we have Elasticsearch resource definition, which is of Elasticsearch kind, and we are creating a service called Quick Start with the version 7.113.2, which is the latest Elasticsearch version. And I'm also deploying a load balancer parallelly, so that I kind of like don't want to like I want to expose that, and thereby I could ingest some data. And then I'm enabling some node specific details. I have only one node. Later you could change it and run it 3 nodes as well. So this particular instance is created. Now let me quickly go and show you like how can I query what's happening in Elasticsearch like using this one. So I'll just go and click this. So I'm watching that the Elasticsearch getting deployed. So it is deployed and ready. Let us go and see if it has got the IP address as well. So if I see get SVC, as you could see, I already got. But what about the password? So I said that there will be TLS certificates as well as the secrets that would be created. By default, it's a secure deployment. So there is a way that you could go and get the password as well. It's in the Kubernetes secrets. I just got that into a variable called password. So let me show it to you. So you could use that directly and then like like call the service. Now let us simply copy this IP address and https 9200 will call us this particular password, so we need to copy that in ahead of the time and then like ask, and then it says that okay, uh, you could generate your self-signed certificate as well, which I haven't, but it creates something basic and sign in, and then you could see that the service that is running, etc., etc. So this is how you could kind of like go ahead and like create an Elasticsearch instance, but that's not it. You could also create a Kibana instance and take a look at that. So I also have a Kibana instance that I could use. Let me quickly deploy that as well. So again, in the same manner, you have a Kibana type resource, and then like it is linked to the Elasticsearch reference that we have created, which is Quick Start. It is the latest 7.1.13.2 service, and I'm also adding a load balancer so that like I get an external IP as well. So let us quickly see again kubectl get Kibana and -w. So and then like you see that it is working and it's available and it's running. So again, let us try to run the service so that like we will get the IP address here. While it is loading, I would definitely kind of like copy back the password that I have generated, or I could do echo dollar password. So yeah, all good. Yeah. So even the Kibana and Elasticsearch pairing is done through the YAML file that we have given, and then you also have the username password configured here as well as a default user, so you don't need to worry about the security as you deploy this onto Elasticsearch. The entire documentation is there on the internet, and I mean Elastic Docs, and then you could take use of it. You could make use of it, and if you want to do some complex stuff as well, let me quickly go to the DevTools part. Okay. So as you could see, I could just ingest the data. I could say cat indices. So I made a mistake. Let me do this. So I see that I have some sample indices and details here. You could also ingest data like create indexes, do a lot of that. It's as simple as it, and like it's like your regular Elasticsearch cluster. The only caveat that I tell you at this point of time is to kind of remember that the kind of storage that you would add to this cluster, because the general purpose Kubernetes cluster in any service like be it GKE, AKS, and EKS, or any other system, right? You would use a specific sort of like kind of storage, maybe which is not perfectly suitable for all sorts of workloads. Just see like Elasticsearch would recommend using SSDs. So just see if you could get SSDs added, your performance would be very much different. And again, I'm using the defaults here, but then like it works. But then at scale, if you want to run a petabyte size cluster, I would recommend you need to definitely take a look at a lot of these things, because end of the day, it's also a system, and then it runs on another distributed system like Kubernetes. So you need to be definitely be careful of what you're doing. So I have some information and dashboards, and I've installed some sample data as we speak. And then let us quickly go and take a look at that and how it would look like. So it's as simple as the regular Elasticsearch instance, etc., etc. So yeah, so you could also like uninstall in the similar fashion. You could also uninstall, delete the resources, manage the resources, create different namespaces. change the defaults and do a lot of stuff. Uh, in the end, I want to just communicate to you all that running stateful applications on Kubernetes is not specifically a science. It's an art too. Uh, so you need to like learn the art of like building the stateful applications. And then there are reasons and there are interesting talk as well in the conference about building a stateful application and what you need to do. So if you want to learn more about or get documentation, get related demos, like you could join this link, or if you want to join the community, please join community.elastic.co. We also have a Slack channel, elastic ela.st/slack. You could join there. If you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A bar, and I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, I'm available in the networking table. You could come and talk to me otherwise as well. Thank you for joining the session. Have a great day.